I'm going to introduce Matt Mays, who sits next to me at the office. He's my go-to person with everything. And he showed me this game, about a couple months ago, Matt, maybe, and it's awesome. And it's actually got potential that you could even go to the national competition in Philadelphia. It's too late because today was the last day to sign up for that, but maybe next year. So Matt, I'm going to go to the next slide and then you can take it away.
All right. Thank you, Diane. Appreciate you having me here. Great to see everybody. So in November, went to a Cavs game, and you know how usually like when you're walking around a sporting event or like Sam's Club, and the people that are like trying to sell you things, like they lock eyes with you and they're like, "Oh, do you have cable TV at home?" And then you're like, "Nope, sure don't." And then you kind of do this move. Well, they had one of these kiosks at the Cavs game, around Quicken Loans or whatever we're calling it, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And I saw this logo. So it was for NBA Math Hoops. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I told my friends, I said, hey, you guys keep walking. I'm going to dip over here just for a second. And they were playing this really cool game on all these tablets. And so the more they're talking, they're like, yeah, we actually have a board game version of this as well. So everything that I'm about to share with you, know that there's a digital component to it. And there is an offline board game so that your kids can experience both environments. The board game would obviously be, in person. And then that digital environment can just be an individual student playing by themselves, playing against the computer, playing against, someone else spread throughout the world. So essentially, NBA Math Hoops is a partnership between the NBA, the WNBA, Hasbro, like the board game people, Getty Images, I'm trying to think who else, Panini, who do like all of the trading cards. And they've all worked together to create this really great math resource for our students. So that is the long description. The short description is it's just a really fun game to play. So as Diane mentioned, this is really good for any grade level. I think their sweet spot, they would say, is like middle to late elementary and then up into high school. So think about like freshmen. Now, can you play this? Yes, it's super fun. I've been tinkering around with it and playing it too. I'm a grown man, but it's still super fun. So there is a tool for just about everybody. Come here, Matt. My dog is having fun with it too. You can hear her yapping about it. Everything that you need on the screen, or everything that you need to know about it, is up on the screen now. So I'm going to give you a little mini tutorial, but there's a video in the center of this slide. So that's even more reason why you should get these slides that Diane has been sharing in the chat. As she mentioned, the board game component is totally free. So I'm going to walk you through all the pieces and parts here in just a moment. But if you follow those 5 steps, then you will get 6 board games plus all of the things that you will need to execute it sent directly to you in your classroom, which is really, really cool. So very rarely do we see, really fun, tangible things that are also free. So I definitely wanted to share this out with you. So Diane, would you mind stop sharing so that way the screen gets a little bit bigger? And then if I'm not like on your screen as like one of the bigger tiles, if you want to go down to where it says more options and change layout, then you might be able to see my picture a little bit larger, which I know is terrifying. I'm sorry, but I at least want you to be able to see all of these things. I'm going to use the board game to cover my face as much as possible. So as I showed you there a moment ago, you're going to get the big box. And inside the box are all kinds of fun things. The first of which is this set of instructions. So just like every other board game that you're going to get, it is loaded with all the rules and everything else that you need to know. Now,
and all the stuff you ignore.
Yeah, that's right. What's great is everything that you see here in this book is also available on their YouTube channel. So the slide that Diane was showing includes the video, kind of that get started guide. That will also lead you to their channel. So it's their own produced videos. It's a team from LearnFresh. They produce those and they're awesome. It shows you step by step. They're actually playing the game and stopping and kind of describing how to do all the different pieces and parts. The next thing that you'll know or that you'll see is this board game. So it mimics an actual basketball court. You'll notice that one side has odds, one side has evens. As I flip the board game over, you'll see an even easier version of it where there are more shots available. So the idea is you take your 2 die. So there's a red die and a blue die. It has a whole bunch of sides on it. It's a nine-sided whatever that is called. This is the gifted math. Somebody's got to know what that's called, right? Oh, Denise, you don't know what that is? I was counting on you to know it. I just see your head.
Diane doesn't either.
Is it like a nonagon? It's got to be something.
Yeah.
Is it a nonagon?
It is a nonagon. I just
Look at
Googled.
me. Language arts
Debbie,
teacher.
did you know?
Language arts
I
teacher
did.
in the
Good
math
for you.
room, no big deal. So the idea is you roll your 2 die and then you're going to do some math to land on one of these spots on the board. And I'll show you what that looks like. You have 4 different pendants. Might help if I show the good side. There is an NBA logo. And like I mentioned, one of my favorite parts is this is also affiliated with the WNBA. So when you have your board game, you have your little player tokens. The next thing you'll notice is there are a slew of trading cards. There are tons and tons and tons of trading cards that include, all the players that are in the NBA, big name people that are in the NBA, and big name, female athletes who are in the WNBA as well, which is really cool. So for some of your kids who may think like, yeah, math stinks, this isn't very enticing, they may see, in the deck, here's Kyrie Irving, used to play for the Cavs. Not my favorite player, but to some of your students may be a favorite, and they'll go, oh, I want to do that thing because I see Kyrie in the deck, because I see LeBron in the deck, right? So it's a really easy and fun way to entice your kids to kind of trick them into math. So the idea is you can draft players, you can, just randomly select players, you can do all kinds of different things. But ideally, you want one player of each color. So you'll notice there's a green, there's a purple, a blue, a red, and a yellow. Those correspond to all the positions on a basketball court. So you have your point guard, shooting guard, your forward. I'm not going to get into the weeds of basketball, even though we could be here forever. I promised Diane I'd keep it short. So you see the trading card side here. However, when you flip it over, now you start to see statistics. So the premise is everything that's in orange is this player's 2-point shot percentage. So now we're talking percentages. We're basically talking like probability, like what is the likelihood that Luka Doncic is going to make a 2-point shot? You'll notice that there are those stripy lines on here also. That is his 3-point percentage. So again, if we're going back to the board game version here, I'm going to show you the math portion of it in just a moment. But let's say that we landed on this dot here. That's a 3-point shot. I'm outside of that range. If I land somewhere in here, that's a 2-point shot. So that basically helps your students to identify which area that they're actually playing with here. It's going to be a little awkward because I'm holding this up for you, but you also get a spinner. So when you land on one of those spaces, if it's a 2-point shot, you spin your little spinner and it has ended up in the gray, which means I've missed that shot. So I don't get the points for that shot. The ball would then go to the other person that I'm playing against. Ta-da, all of a sudden we're playing a game of basketball. You have this really cool scoreboard thing where you can keep track of your points. Those points are earned based on where the shot is placed. So I'm going to zoom in way close there. So you'll notice that, again, there are some that are beyond that 3-point border. There are some that were within that 2-point border. And depending on if they hit that shot, then you would just move your little point tally. But where does the math come in, right? So I promised you, that we would roll this die. So there are 2 die. I'm going to roll them both, and you can't see it, but I have 8 and 7. So the idea is I'm going to use this math board. This is dry erase. It comes with 2 of these tablets as well as 2 dry erase pens. And we start to do our math. So I'm going to write my numbers in here. First 8, because that's the bigger number, and then 7. And I'm going to zoom that way, way in so that hopefully you can see it. So the idea here is I'm going to add those 2 numbers. I'm going to subtract those 2 numbers. I'm going to multiply those 2 numbers. And then I'm going to divide those 2 numbers. The catch is sometimes these aren't easily divisible. So if they don't divide into a whole number, then we're just going to put a line here through that first division symbol. So there's an advanced part. I'm going to show you that on the back here as well. But just to kind of keep things easy, especially for your younger learners, this kind of, helps lower that barrier for, fractions, and there are only whole numbers on the board. So it's not like they're going to, have a 7/8 on the board. Like, that just doesn't work that way. So this is where I need your help. Someone unmute. Tell me, what is 8 plus 7? I don't read sign language, Denise. Unmute and say it. Take a gamble.
15.
What is it?
15.
15.
Plus
All right.
7.
Thank you,
So,
Lisa.
I'm going to write it in there as 15. Next, what is 8 minus 7? Someone different. Lisa, I appreciate you.
1.
1. Thank you. Okay. And then 8 times 7. This is the difficult one. This is why I'm going out to the group, because I don't want to embarrass myself in front of all of you. 56. Okay. So as the player now, I get to decide if, let's say, I was playing the odd side of the board and you switch halfway through the game. But if I was playing the odd side of the board, I would then get to pick, am I going to shoot from 15 or am I going to shoot from 1? If I was playing the even side of the board, I would only have one option there, and that's 56. So I put my little player on that. I spin my little spinner just like I showed you a moment ago. If it goes in, ta-da, I've earned that many points. The ball goes over to the person that I'm playing against. They do the same thing. You can see there are a ton of spaces on here. You get to determine, are we going to play for a certain amount of time? Are we going to play for a certain amount of points? All those kinds of good things. And it's super fun and engaging. Now, some people may need a little bit more of a challenge, and that is over here on the advanced side. The advanced side is slightly different. So you'll notice that it says like ball on. You're going to use the number that the other team is on as kind of like a, I don't know how's the word, like a trigger number. Like, you're going to use that to do all kinds of different things. So you'll see the base is the same. I'm still going to roll my die. I'm still going to do all of those basic functions. And then you'll notice that it says plus all the way across, and minus all the way across, and multiply all the way across, and divide all the way across. So we're going to use this number here in this circle to do all of those operations with these extra numbers up here at the top. So it's really multi-layered. And like I said, that's more for like our advanced players once they get the gist. Some of the other things that the game might involve as your players kind of grow and understand the game, you can do steals. So like I told you, I'm a language arts teacher by trade. So 8 times 7, I say that's 54. Once I'm done with my math, then you as the other player could say steal. You can say that isn't actually 54. It's 56. And then you can kind of talk through your math and, prove how you're coming up with all of those numbers. So with all of that said, Diane, would you mind popping that slide back up one more time for me?
Sure.
And thank you all for enlightening me with all my toys here. One of our friends in the office said, "Oh, I'm busy over here at work and Matt's just playing board games all day." You know what? I am, and this is work. So deal with it. So if this is something that you think you might be interested in, go to https://mylfca.com. From there, you're going to click register in the top corner. You'll fill out your information. And then on the next screen, this is the part that they're not going to tell you. So definitely make sure that you keep an eye on this. You have to put in the code. The code is NBA 2021. Okay. And most of the time they give that out at like these, they call them like boot camps or like training camps. They told that to me. I'm telling that to you. So go on and get that for free. That way you don't even have to do the training camp. You can just consider this kind of like your training camp. Once you've read those disclosures, you can check the box and ta-da, you'll have 6 of those board games. They consider that to be a class set and you'll have those sent to you. The one thing I will mention is you're going to have, ideally, well, I mean, you'll have 10 player cards out of your deck at one time, but you'll notice there are tons, like there's probably like 100 different players. So when you get your class set, they feel like this deck is plenty for 2 to 3 board games. So know that you're not going to get one of these giant decks for each of the board games that you're going to get. So I just don't want you to be surprised if you get it and you're like, well, where are the other cards? There's plenty to pick from here. And what's really fun is the more that kids play, they're going to see like, oh man, I love Ben Simmons. Like he's one of my favorite players. And then when they get down to the math of it, they'll realize that he's an unbelievably terrible shooter. So I don't know how many of you follow the NBA. Great kid. He's been in the news quite a bit lately, mostly because of how poor of a shooter he is. And so they're going to learn those things. So you'll start to see kids not necessarily look at this side of things, but they're really going to focus on the math, because I don't really care if I have this guy if he can't do the things that I need him to on the back end. So it's a really cool conversation, really cool integration. Like I said, there's the online, the mobile version of it too. And it's just a super fun way to bring math into your classroom. Does anyone have any questions on anything before I bid you adieu for the evening? It says, after you register, how long does it take to receive the game? Great question, Alicia. Thank you for asking. Let's see. I have accidentally done this twice. So like I have 12 board games. When I was doing the test for all of these different steps, I put in my personal email and it sent me 6 more on accident. I didn't mean to. So that's another little hack if you wanted to get 12 instead of 6. I didn't tell you that though. But I filled it out on like a Thursday or Friday, and about a week and a half later, they were at my doorstep. Another thing says it looks like it's limited to 4 per person now. That's interesting. It was 6. This was literally like 2 weeks ago. It was 6. So definitely keep an eye on that.
4 is still really good though, Matt. I mean,
say free is free. I always say, if it's free, it's for me. If it's free, I'll take 3. That was what Charles Barkley used to say.
And you can also still get 8 by using your personal email, apparently. So.
Right. That's right. So know that, like I said, this is super fun. I'm always here to help you. I'm just a nerd for the game like everybody else. Know that there are all of those tutorials and more that are available on the YouTube page. The NBA is really leaning into this. So as Diane mentioned, the national championships are being held in Philadelphia this year. So that will align with the Sixers. And then in previous years, they have had it in some different locations too. So it's really, really fun. If you do play, let me know. I'd love to come by and check it out, but really fun extension for your students. And feel free to share this with your other people in your buildings too.
And once you sign up for the games, then you get emails from them and like, oh, we got some promo thing last week, but they were dancing and wanting you to sign up for the competition, but you get reminders and things and all the time. But it's not over. You don't get over with it.
Right.
So we want to say to thank Daphne a little bit. We are sending tomorrow. We're sending one of the games to Daphne so she can have that in her class.
Shout out Daphne.
And
thank you.
So, and Matt, we send Matt as well to explain it all to your class. No,
I'll be there.
Perfect.
You tell me when and where. I'll be there.
That's awesome.
All right. So we're going to give away another one. So in the chat, if you're first, you get the number. pick a number between 1 and 50 and we'll give away another game.
Oh boy.
I know this is hard.
We'll
It's a good
keep an
thing I
eye.
was prepared.
They're coming in fast, Diane. Still no
Okay.
one?
Let's count to 5. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The number was 17. See, I had it ready.
Ooh, and it
Oh,
was
that's good.
close too.
And I think the very first guess was 17. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
Lori.
Lori.
Yay, Lori.
Thank you.
We will send yours out tomorrow. We might have to send Matt on a different day since we're sending him over. So we'll send him on a different day. So I hope you were paying attention. And all of you remember, don't ask me any questions about this. These all go to Matt. Please.
It was recorded. You can go back and look.
There you go. There you go. Yes, we are recording. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate you. Go out and enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you all for having me. For real though, if you need me, I put my email in the chat. So have
Thank
fun. Do your math with your kids. Have fun and be silly. And have a great day. Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. See you, everybody.
So I appreciate you all I know it was a little bit long and it seems involved. If, again, back in the slides, there are links to videos. When you watch the kids actually playing this, they catch on far faster than I do. And they're just really loving it. So it's really a cool thing to watch. So again, if you order them, you'll get them. So it's just that if you're getting them for free, Lori and Daphne, you'll have them whenever the courier gets them to you. So you won't have to wait for the mail to get there. So I found this quote. I thought it was cool. Math is like going to the gym for your brain. It sharpens your mind. I like that. So feel free to use that. And I'm going to introduce Denise and Daphne from North Canton. And I will quit sharing here and while you're doing introductions, Denise, and then Daphne, you can call yours up then. Okay. All right,
Thank
Denise.
I get to cheat because Daphne did a wonderful slideshow presentation, and her second slide is everything about her. So I get a cheat sheet. We are so lucky to have Daphne as a teacher at North Canton City Schools. She was with us a few years ago and then was at Marlington for I think 4 years and now is back at North Canton City Schools. She teaches our on-level 6th grade students and then our 6th graders who are in 7th grade math. She's a wonderful person to work with, and we are, like I said, so over the moon that we have the opportunity to have Daphne back at our school. Daphne graduated from University of Akron. She has her bachelor's in middle level math and science, so she's a 4 through 9 license. She also has a master's in assessment, evaluation, and data literacy. And I had the joy, and I say this like honestly, I don't know that anyone else would, but I had the joy of reading her thesis on acceleration as part of the interview process. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. People might have made fun of me.
I'm glad that somebody else enjoyed it as much as I did.
Like I said, she works with our on-level math students, but then she also has a class of accelerated 7th graders. She has been a part of the Ohio Blended Learning Collaborative, and she's going to share what that is and what she's learned from that in her presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to send it on over to Daphne, who can steal a little bit from what I wrote on my slide.
Well, thank you. Are you guys seeing my screen? I'm so sorry. I wanted to make sure it's all popping up right. Is it good?
Yes.
It's great.
Cool. Okay, so thank you, Denise. I am really excited to be back at North Canton too. I've had a lot of really, really positive experiences, and I'm really happy to talk to you today. By the way, I am in no way, shape, or form a professional at this. I am just like a regular person, and I can do it. So if I can do it, anybody can. But Denise too. Denise is awesome. She is so helpful for us in the Gifted with the curriculum, and we really appreciate her. And I appreciate being able to be here today. So thank you. But I wanted to talk a little bit about blended learning in general, because I've been doing OBC for 4 years now. And I think the misconception is that when you say blended learning, that it means that you're only using technology. There's no face-to-face or anything, or, you know, that there's not as much interaction, that you're not, you know, the kids are just glued to the screen. But one thing that I learned was that blended learning doesn't necessarily mean only using technology. It's definitely a combination, hence the blended, of course. But anybody can incorporate it in small doses. And that's what I've done over the last 5 or 6 years of my teaching. And now I'm still learning new things every day. One of the things that's really important is that this can be used with any of the learning management systems. Like we use Schoology, but I know that Canvas is really similar, Google Classroom. Even if you don't have an LMS and you're just trying to incorporate strategies, you know, Class Dojo, stuff like that, you can incorporate these in any classroom, in any setting, and it doesn't have to be in any budget too. The best takeaways that I've learned with OBC was find ways to give students choice, give options for self-paced learning, and also authentic assessment opportunities that are embedded into your LMS. This has saved me so much time. And I think that it's a lot of work in the beginning. It's a lot of work to like kind of start it and get going. It's kind of overwhelming, but once you do, you can save this stuff for years and years to come. So that's what's really kind of cool about it. And also baby steps. This is not something that you're going to do overnight. I've been doing it for, 4 to 5 years now, and I still am learning stuff. And it's just a mindset shift. So I just wanted to show you what I do. It's not, anything crazy magical. It's just kind of my spin on what I find to be really helpful for my students. So I wanted to first show you how I set up my Schoology. So in my Schoology, and I can even pull it up for you, everything is organized by marking period, by week, and then even by day. So if I go over, so this is my actual Schoology course, everything in here is set up in weekly folders with checklists. So this was a short week, but if you go in here and you can see every day they have things to do. Every day they have certain things that they have to accomplish. And the way that they keep themselves organized is they also have a checklist for each day. So let me show you. My checklists are just basic Google Docs. I go in, they're kind of my pacing guide, but what's cool about it is students see exactly what they're supposed to do every single day, the minimum amount to be accomplished. So even though that is the minimum amount, it gives them a little bit of freedom and flexibility, especially for your students who are your faster learners, that they can progress on. Now, I will be honest with you, especially with the younger group, they're not necessarily going to go outside of the box and do more. They kind of want you to walk them through it. But my students over the past year have gotten a little bit more independent every single week. And it's really nice to see that happening. And as they progress up through the grades, they're more and more independent. I find that that's definitely a struggle going from 8th grade to 6th grade, is that the independence piece. It's so hard for these kids to know, what am I supposed to do next? Where do I go? What do I do? So if you clearly outline exactly what you want, they are able to, kind of, and it's nice for visual too. So when students complete them, if they don't feel comfortable moving ahead in another day folder, then I have a couple things that they can do, self-paced activity that will meet their needs. Map recommended practice, because we use the map test. I still do some dog with my kids. I know it's a little bit more elementary, but I noticed that the kids' math facts are a little bit lower than I'd like them to be at this point in time. So the Sum Dog, when I started incorporating that, it got so much better and their confidence grew, and it's fun and they like doing it. So I've just been using the free version on that, and they do really well with that. And then again, they can also work ahead in folders. So I just make these checklists. And if you go like in my Google Drive, I have everything organized in here too. All of my checklists are preloaded. So the cool thing is too, for next year, I can see and reflect back and say, oh, I did that at this point. Maybe I want to change this a little bit, or, oh, I liked the way that this flowed. Love that. Like, we'll stick with it. So I like to go back and reflect on my teaching as well. So, where do you start? It seems sometimes overwhelming, and especially if you've been doing something the same for many, many years. My biggest suggestion is just try baby steps, and that is the best place to start. So, for example, in Schoology, our LMS, I also have a group resource with our math teachers that we've created where we share everything. So everything that we've ever made, tests, anything like that, study guides, they're all in here. And so sharing those and creating those together, collaborating with your colleagues is really, really important because it is hard to do by yourself. So having that team there to help you. Some of the things that you can try would be to just create an assessment in Schoology, even if it's an exit ticket, or in your LMS. Create something that is going to be an embedded assessment. In Schoology, the creation is pretty user-friendly, and then once it is created, you can save it. Or if you use Google Classroom, make a Google form and save that for years to come. I am going to talk about a little bit later some game-based activities. I particularly like Gimkit, Lookit. Kahoot is kind of getting a little bit more dated for me, but I still do like to use it, and quizzes. Game-based activities, super quick and easy, especially if you can just go on, search. I sometimes, like, if I have extra time, I'll just go on, search the topic that we're learning about, and throw up a Gimkit, and the kids love it. They love doing those, and the repetition helps them to really understand the concepts. We just did one today on probability, so it was kind of cool to see the board game being talked about because that's what we're learning. I don't know if many of you, maybe you do, use the Desmos teacher activities. Now, that's different than just like the Desmos calculator. Desmos actually has teacher activities that are paced for the kids. And what I do is I actually put the pacing up on the screen. The kids, if they get a question right, they get a check. If they don't, they get an X. And I tell them, if you have an X, stay on that slide or come back to it and get all checks across. So those Desmos teacher activities, what's cool is that they are tailored specifically to math. I found too with blended learning when I've been in my sessions is that a lot of times you see a lot of blended learning, awesome opportunities for ELA and social studies and science and all these cool things. But math, it's not that easy sometimes. We have a different beast here. So Desmos teacher activities are cool to use because the kids can actually use and those manipulatives, get used to the calculator, which are, is very similar to what they're incorporating in the state tests. And you can edit it too. I just edited my first one the other day. Another way I incorporate technology is I provide my lesson notes online and answer keys. And then also you can give your students an option to watch a video if you screencast your video or just pull one off YouTube to help fill out the notes instead of the lecture-based learning. And I did this more when I was in 8th grade. 6th grade, they still want you to be in front of the room. They still want, that face-to-face, which is great. That's why it's blended. And the weekly checklists, I just started doing those probably in the last 2 years. And honestly, they have been a lifesaver for me. And not only just for the kids, but for me too, because I am such a sequential person. I need to see what is going on, what's happening next.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was just going to jump in. We have another teacher who does a lot of blended learning and also does those checklists. And what we find is when there's a student who's really motivated, and usually it might not be our 6th graders. And I think this year is a little bit different in just how kids are responding to, the ability to maybe work ahead and things like that. But we do have a teacher who teaches both 7th grade on level and then pre-algebra as well, 7th graders in pre-algebra. And he'll allow kids to work through those checklists. And we'll often see kids, maybe they're on level, but they really want to be accelerated. And so he'll see kids work through that initial checklist for the on-level 7th grade math and move into the pre-algebra and maybe do 2 years in one just by working through those checklists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's such a great opportunity. I think that once you've kind of perfected your, whatever you're teaching in that year, and you kind of keep working at it and keep changing it, and you do get that, you get that progression, and it's nice to have that, especially if you can collaborate with those higher level teachers who are maybe, can share resources with you, because in our LMS you can share resources. So it's really nice. I see it more in the older ages, but I do have a couple, maybe about 4 or 5, that are actively wanting to do more. And those 4 or 5, we need to meet their needs too, So, just real quick about embedded assessments. One of the things I learned in blended learning was data talks with students. So I do this with every assessment. I will put the data up on the board, and it doesn't have their names or anything. It literally looks just like this. And so it's just a box and whisker plot, and then we'll talk about questions and how they scored on each question. And I facilitate these talks with them to say, okay, what is this showing? Okay, we met 70% mastery. Is that where we want to be? What is the standard? Where do we want to see ourselves as a group? Okay, what is this outlier? And they get very involved in those data talks. We talk about the averages for each question. Oh, only 67% of the students got this question. What does that mean? And the students, like, their wheels start turning in their head, and they're understanding, like, okay, maybe we need to go back to that. And it helps them to create connections. And actually, they're very excited to do this. You would think it would be boring. Like, and I'm a big data person, so like, I think it's exciting. You would think that the kids would be bored, but they love this. They love being able to make connections with, okay, where am I up on that screen? Where do I fit in? And how do I compare to everybody else? And what can I do to be better? So those data talks, that was a really great thing. And that's not even necessarily, a blended learning thing. It just kind of is a byproduct of it. I do these online assessments. They score immediately, almost the same day. We have these data talks. Okay, where do we need to go? What do we need to do? I kind of talked about this a little bit with collaboration. In Schoology, we do share resources. We share resources on Google Drive. And the best thing is once they're created, they're done. I know it does seem like a lot of work up front, especially going from, like me personally, going from 8th grade to 6th grade and from one district to another. It's almost like I'm a new teacher again, right? And so it's been a lot of front loading, but over time, I'm appreciating it, because next year I'm going to be so set. I have everything that I need, and I can just make tweaks and adjustments to it to make it what I need for the year to come. So I think that the collaboration and sharing with other, your teammates is really important as well.
Hey, Daphne, there's a question in the chat, if you don't mind. It's from a 4th grade teacher. Yes. And she said she used to use the computer all the time in math. Mm-hmm. But the students have started to use the computer's calculator to find the answers, and then she's gone back to the paper pencil tests. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing, and if I'm interpreting this wrong, if you want to kind of jump in, is it Jodine? It sounds like she's asking maybe how to address that through a blended learning perspective. Does it all have to be technology based, or what can we do to maybe get around that? Because I do think that there's an importance to have that foundational knowledge.
Absolutely. There definitely is. And I have noticed that myself as well. The good thing about our district, and this is just personally in our district, we have what's called Securely, where I can watch all the kids' screens, and I can also lock them into certain things and only allow certain tabs to be opened. I noticed too that is kind of an issue, and the kids, I will say, I still pass out scrap paper for every test, or I give them like an answer document for every test, and I still make them turn in their work. And if they don't turn in their work, they don't get full credit. So I think just having that securely as kind of a safeguard has been really helpful. But you could maybe adjust it where you have the students work out the problems on the paper, and even go in and input their answers into the system where they're not even, all they should be doing is inputting them in there at the final end of it. And then you still get that instant feedback. The students still get that instant feedback. But I do know that's kind of the beast with math too, is that they do still have to have those foundational skills, and we don't want them to cheat. We don't want them to just jump on Google and Google the answer. I will say, I mean, and knock on wood, I have really had not any issue with cheating per se. Maybe like on a worksheet, but also at the same time, and I'll show you this in my notes and in my in everything, I actually give them the answer keys. So like if it's not an assessment, if it's just a worksheet, I tell the kids, you can cheat if you want, but is that going to do you any good when it comes down to the assessment? I provide them with answer keys for everything. I think like making that available to them and kind of being open with them has maybe made it easier for them to hold themselves more accountable when it does come to an assessment time. So I know that was a lot, but to answer your question, there are ways around it. Like I said, you could have your tests, you could have the calculations and everything be done on paper, but then at the very end, like their final check is to go back into like, Schoology or Google and just type in their answers. And it does seem like an extra step, but I think once the kids realize they get instant feedback, they want to know that. They want to know how they did. And you do too. So, and maybe if you don't want to embed your assessments, but you want to try something else to kind of start off with. I think I've just become more comfortable with it over the years to kind of know like how the kids are cheating, that I can watch for it, but maybe that's not your first baby step. Does that make sense? I know I just talked a lot about it, but just, trying to, so yeah, just trying, sorry, I'm trying to look at the chat, but I have my screen showing. But
It's okay. I got the chat. No worries.
okay, cool. But yeah, maybe that's not, I think you have to kind of get used to it first, used to the idea of maybe we don't do an assessment online, but maybe we do a project online. I was just talking about my students are making board games for probability, and there's really not a way for them to cheat in that sense because it's all creation based. And maybe that's something you try until you're comfortable with it. And by the way, it's not like a one way or the other. It's more of a spectrum. Like some days I'm lecturing a lot of the time, and some days I don't lecture in front of the kids at all. It just depends on where we're at and what they need from me at that time. So, or like, for example, another great resource, I don't know if you use map testing, but if you do, this is another awesome way to meet your students' needs in a blended type environment. I use Khan Academy, and I specifically use the Khan recommended practice for map. And so the students put in their map scores, and they get specific recommendations based on their area of focus. And every test cycle, they put in their new scores. So what I do as part of my weekly checklist is I call it Khan Mappers or Monday Mappers, and they have to do at least 10 minutes a week. Now, they are more than welcome to do more, and I have tons of students do more than what's recommended or the minimum requirement. They get bonus points for doing above and beyond the minimum expectation, so that's a little bit of an incentive, but there is such an easy way for you to meet your students' needs, those foundational skills that, unfortunately, over the pandemic, those were things that kind of got missed, and those are gaps that got wider. And so being able to give them content where they're at, meeting the specific needs of those students, and just say, okay, we're gonna make this part of our weekly to-do list. We're gonna do 10 minutes. And I give them all 10 minutes in class so that there's no there's not like they're going home and forgetting to do it, or, oh, I don't have time, or, oh, I had band practice. Give them the time in class. And those 10 minutes, I mean, they're monumental. We just got our, I just gave the MAP test today, and the students, we fill out goal sheets and they wrote down their goals, and every single student in my enriched class besides 2 met their yearly goal, which was like amazing. But I really attribute it to hitting this hard all year long, 10 minutes a week. And some of them go above and beyond. And to kind of like piggyback off of that, we were talking about those 4 or 5 kids that are wanting to do more. I have, some kids in mind. I have progressed that MAP recommended practice to curriculum compacting within MAP. So not only are they doing those MAP recommended practice, but I'm assigning them topics from pre-algebra and algebra and 8th grade math, depending on where they're at here, and I'm using it as a resource to help them compact to try to advance. So I have a couple students who are really, really interested and want to know more and are just eager for learning, and it's so easy. It's self-paced. There's videos, there's exercises, there's unit tests, all different types of assessment opportunities. And with the compacting, I say, okay, here's the goal that you have to meet to be considered for acceleration. And we have our like time, which is a 30-minute period of either intervention or extension to kind of meet those kids where they're at. And the kids that I'm working with specifically, they're working through the content at their own pace, and they're those self-motivated learners. This isn't going to be necessarily for everybody, right? But you do have those handful of kids that want to do more and want and request more and want to learn beyond what you're learning in class. So maybe you don't have the resources to say, oh, I have next year's, stuff already made for, the grade up. Well, this is a great way to have that free resource, and it's really user friendly. And I just monitor them while they're doing it and kind of help them through it. And if they get stuck on something, we talk about it and we learn it.
One thing that we really try to do at North Canton City Schools, and we've made some gains, I think, in the past few years, is to not have acceleration be something that only happens at a certain grade level, but something that's available to any student when they are ready for it, or maybe when they're willing to work for it. So typically our students, the vast majority of our students, do a grade acceleration from the end of 5th into 7th grade math. And that is one of the classes that Daphne teaches. But we also are cognizant that some students need math acceleration before 5th grade, and some students might need math acceleration after 5th grade. And so we want to make sure that what we have developed and what we've put together allows us to meet the needs of those students who need acceleration prior to 5th grade, and then also allows us to meet the students' needs for those who need acceleration after 7th grade. And I would say that the curriculum compacting is what we're really focusing on in the middle school. So we do have some 6th graders who maybe weren't ready last year. Maybe they were online, maybe something happened, maybe, there was a social emotional need, but for whatever reason, they weren't giving us the data to show that they were ready to jump into 7th grade math as a 6th grader. But man, now they're doing an awesome job in 6th grade math, and they're willing to work for it, and they're putting, effort into it. So we want to make sure that those kids have a pathway to go from 6th grade into pre-algebra as a 7th grader. We have a couple of 7th graders that Daphne is working with who are already single accelerated, but man, they want to take algebra as a 7th grader, and they're willing to work for it, and they have the ability. And so they're doing some curriculum compacting as 6th graders in 7th grade math, pulling in some of those pre-algebra standards so that they may potentially be ready to take algebra as a 7th grader. Some of our kids might work really hard in middle school and not be quite there, but may have the opportunity to double up and take like an algebra and a geometry together in the high school. We want to make sure that we have those opportunities for our students, because I firmly believe we all mature and are ready at different times. And it's our job to provide those opportunities to students whenever they're ready.
Yeah. And I appreciate that so much about coming, into North Canton District, because I felt like that is such an important thing, and it's such an important piece for those kids, is to have all those different opportunities. It's not just you missed the boat, oh well. Now it's okay, we can try again, and that's what's really, it's really a beautiful thing.
And it does make those conversations with parents so much easier when, you know, we say at the end of 5th grade, you know what, we're not ready now. This is the reason why we're not ready. This is what our data is showing. But this is another pathway that you could potentially take. This is another option that you could potentially have. And that helps. I think it's not a no, it's just a not yet.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more things I just wanted to share with you, and I'm sure we'll make sure you have access to this later on. But these are just some things that I do as like online resources. Like I said, blended learning is not just online. It's not just, it's a true blend. But these are some things that I use in my classroom weekly, and most of them almost daily. GimKit, great game based. I don't know if any of you have used it. It has a free version. It's limited, but it is still good. I actually have the paid version and I love it. So that is probably the one that the kids love the most is GimKit. Blookit is another one. There's a paid or free version, but free version is pretty much the same. It has the same perks. I think the only difference is like you can make classes. I'm not entirely sure, but it's really not that much different. Quizzes as well has a free or paid version. There are like some super quizzes that are supposed to be like better or whatever, but I think that the free ones are just as good. So I don't invest in that because I feel like it's just as good. The Desmos Teacher, totally free, totally math specific. If you have not went on and registered as a Desmos teacher, you've got to do it. I mean, it is awesome. And I'm sure some of you being in math would have been, ingrained in that in the past, but it's one of my favorite things to use because it is a manipulative and it is so close to the error test calculator that it helps them get ready for it. And then BuzzMath, it does require a subscription and it only goes up to 8th grade content. But if your district does have a subscription to BuzzMath, you've got to get on that boat because it is so easy, so user-friendly. It walks the kids through the problems if they're struggling. It makes them redo the questions until they master it. And it's quick and easy, and I really love it. So I think we're moving on to your part here, which is Alex in the IAAT as well.
Right. Thank you, Daphne. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing everything that you have. And if there are questions, feel free for anybody to kind of dump them in the chat and we'll get to them. As I mentioned earlier, really important to me as a gifted coordinator and to our district to make sure that we have opportunities for students to accelerate whenever they're ready. And part of the way we meet that in our elementaries is the ALEX program. ALEX is an online curriculum. It is extremely cost effective. It's only $45 for a year subscription. Most districts, no matter where you are, can do that. We have had some parents just offer even to pay for it because it doesn't cost a whole lot. So for our students who are ready to do subject acceleration early, and we look at MAP scores for that, we look at teacher recommendation, we talk to parents, and we kind of get that full data on students. Whenever we have a physical classroom to put a student in, we do. So for example, we have a couple of 3rd graders who are taking 4th grade math in a physical classroom. We have a couple of 4th graders taking 5th grade math in a physical classroom. Unfortunately, we get to the point where we have 5th graders and we cannot bus them to our middle school. Our elementaries are just not close enough. Schedules don't line up. There's a big difference in starting times. So we utilize the ALEX math program. What I have done is put all of our students who are on ALEX with our gifted intervention specialists who then monitor the program, provide support and scaffolding for our students, also help break up kind of the monotony of an online instruction. But what I absolutely love about ALEX is it allows students to curriculum compact into a grade level. So our 5th graders start in 6th grade math. They take a curriculum compacting knowledge check, and they can start where they are in the 6th grade curriculum. Some of our kids, that's 25 or 35% of the way through. I've had students test in all the way at 55 or 60% through of the 6th grade curriculum though. And that's wonderful because I know then kids are getting what they need and they aren't spending a lot of time relearning what they already know. The other thing I love about ALEX is you have to prove mastery more than once. So for example, I might take a knowledge check. I might have compacted 60% of the way through. I might be learning lessons. I might be showing mastery. Another knowledge check is going to hit me, and I'm going to have to prove that I already know what I said I knew. And I'm also going to have to prove that I've maintained or retained what the program has taught me. And the other nice thing is when that program reassesses a student, it doesn't say, oh, you failed these topics. It just kind of slides them right back into the learning deck. So a student isn't really even aware maybe that they have to retake a lesson or something like that. So it's something that's a little bit sly. So students' confidence remains high. So when our kiddos are on ALEX, typically our students get through 6th grade math and 7th grade math and then start in pre-algebra as 6th graders. We do have a handful of students who take 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade math on ALEX, and then they take the Iowa Algebra Aptitude Test, kind of like as an internal measure. If they get a certain score on that, they then take algebra as 6th graders, which that's a big deal. It's a triple acceleration. It's a high school credit as a 6th grade student. We have a handful of kiddos who are doing that this year. And it's something that we monitor really closely because when we're talking acceleration, we want to make sure that the data that we have in place, the processes that we have in place are really meeting the needs of the students. So to me, when I'm talking about a student who's single or double or triple accelerated, I want to make sure that they're still achieving at high levels. And so I really look at grades. I look at passage on the Ohio State test or the end of course in algebra and geometry. All of our students who have ever done ALEX or done the curriculum compacting have scored accelerated or advanced on every single math OST or EOC, starting with that first acceleration. So longevity, the data shows, or the longitudinal data shows that they're getting the information they need. The gaps are kind of filled through ALEX, and they're continuing to achieve at high levels. The other thing is every year I go up to my high school department chairs and I say, guys, these are your students who have been accelerated. These are your students who've done the ALEX program or done curriculum compacting. Are they in the right place? You know, is our data holding? Are they performing like they should be performing? And every year they tell me yes, which always makes me feel really, really good. And if they would say no, then we would sit down and we'd look at the data, we kind of figure out what's going on and we'd make adjustments. So I like to make sure that we hear that teacher's voice when we're talking about acceleration because the data doesn't always tell the full story. I've referenced the Iowa Algebra Aptitude Assessment a couple of times here. It's the IAAT for short. It's a 60 problem test. It is paper pencil that students take, and it is research based, and it provides information on students' algebra readiness. There's a Form A and there's a Form B. What I really like about it is when I dive into the technical manual, I can see a student's probability to get an A in an algebra course based on their score. And that's really a good talking point for teachers, and it's a good talking point for parents as we're going through acceleration. Algebra is a high school credit. That grade stays on a transcript. That grade is important. And when I tell parents, hey, this score is telling me that your student has a pretty strong chance to get a C or a D, then it's another kind of pause for parents who are really pushing for acceleration. Based on our demographics, we have a lot of requests. And so we want to make sure that we have a process, a data-based process in place for for our students and for our teachers. I feel like that was a lot of information, and we're kind of like 5:18, 5:20, and I know that it's really hard to sit and watch a virtual presentation. I feel like,
Thank you for doing so.
I feel like as engaging as we are. What questions do you have, or is there anything that we can kind of provide more depth on for anyone?
Denise, can you and Daphne maybe put your emails in the chat? And so if they want to send something later, maybe they can jot those down.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank
And
you.
thank you
Like
so
that.
much.
Oh, I put my email wrong.
Thank you guys so much for having us, and we really appreciate it. I am sorry, I do have to jump out because my children are at daycare and it closes in 10 minutes. So I've got to go. But if you have any questions, please feel free, reach out at any time.
Okay. Some people are
Bye.
changing. You're getting lots of thank yous. People are changing math series. Someone asked any suggestions for a math curriculum that can be used in our regular ed classrooms and still help teachers enrich for the gifted students.
You know, we just went through a math curriculum adoption right before COVID hit, and I was pleasantly surprised at how many math curriculums have opportunities to enrich and accelerate students. I know that that's becoming kind of a common trend, that it's built into a lot of curriculums, that there is an accelerated version in 6th, 7th, and 8th, or maybe even starting as early as 5th. So I think that you'll find as you start looking at them, you'll see more. I feel like, gosh, Envision does, I remember. And I think HMH, theirs did. I'm trying to remember. It's been too many years. I could maybe go back in notes and look for you, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at more of the opportunities. But honestly, if there are some that don't, the Con Mappers really does a nice job of taking a student's map scores and moving them forward. And if you're not a map district, the Khan Academy Mastery also does a really nice job with that.
Thanks, Denise. Couple questions that we can help everybody with. This is being recorded, and I will post it in the live binder once I get it tonight. So it will be in the live binder under the Gifted K-12 Teacher tab. So that, and if you can't find the live binder or can't find that tab, just email me and I'll send it to you personally. Also, Lacey asked, does anyone else use the Renzulli site for enrichment? If so, do you like it?
Diane, we tried it.
Go ahead, Christine.
We tried it recently, and I guess I like the idea of it, but it just didn't work out for us.
Okay.
I had a group of 8th graders that were over at the middle school that needed just some enrichment, and I was going to kind of real high achievers, very motivated. So I thought I would start with them. I told them, talked to them about it. They just did not take to it. They tried, but it just didn't go off. So we stopped using it.
But you're using Renzulli how then?
I'm not now. I'm done.
Not at all?
Nope. I tried, and our subscription ran out, so I just stopped.
Okay.
Christine,
that was mostly during COVID then, right?
Well, we started in COVID, and we liked it then for remote, but then I tried to continue it, and my kids just did not seem interested, and I don't know I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Could have been me. I don't know.
Christine, which district are you?
Fearless.
Okay. I think Green maybe was looking at using that. Is anybody on from Green?
Tammy's not here. I know they were looking into purchasing it for next year. They've not used it at all this year. And I think, Christine, did she contact you?
No, she never did. No.
Okay. She'll probably be at the meeting tomorrow, and she may be picking your brain.
I don't know. They start with an inventory, your interest inventory, and that's really cool. And then there's just so much, and the kids just kind of get lost. What I really like about it, though, is I would like a teacher account is what I would like. And then I could just do a search on whatever unit of study that I'm doing, and then be able to like pull safe websites for the kids to explore, get ideas. But I would never probably ask for student accounts again.
Okay, that's good to know. I remember years ago, we actually had purchased it in North Canton.
Well,
and that's what we did.
Yeah, we did it years ago as like, remember everyone in Stark County, we
Right.
kind of did it. And when I did it then, it was, we worked with it for a while, and then it kind of came up again, and I felt like, well, maybe it's going to be better. And it was, but it just, for some reason, my kids just didn't.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you for the honest opinion. That's all right. Any other questions? I know it's late in the day, it's late in the year, and it's March 7th, it's not 13th, March 17th, and it's 70 degrees out. So if you come up with any questions, you might have to scroll up, but Denise and Daphne's emails are there. You can always email me, and I will get the questions to them. So thank you, Denise, and please share our thanks to Daphne.
She's great.
Okay, she is. Before we go, a couple things. If you have any questions, you can see there's my email. There's a link to a survey, and you don't have to write that down unless you want to. I will send that out as an email. All the ESC lead teacher groups are taking the same survey. It's basically finding out, we hope next year that we can be in person. We also have found out, though, that people like some virtual meetings where we don't want them all the time. So you're going to get some questions like that. And what are some things that you would like to see at the meetings? You may come to mine, you may come to the math, whatever. So just you'll see there'll be a place for you to check all the ones that you attend, and then a place for comments. So I will send that out in an email tomorrow. So again, if you don't want to write it down now, just want you to be aware that it's coming. Also, skip the great spring break. We'll get to that in a minute. But we've just recently secured Lisa Van, and I don't know if I'm saying her name right, Gemert, but she's the Gifted Guru. I know a lot of people use her information. She has done lots of things with Ian Bird, and Ian Bird is my absolute favorite person to use. Very down to earth. I'm actually working with her right now on what to present, but she will be here for a full day this fall. I almost could tell you the day, and then today something came up, so we're now looking at a new day, but it'll be probably November, like first, second, or third. I think it'll be a great day. The reason why we had to change it, the first day we had picked was OAGC Day, and we thought, oh no, we don't want to take away from that. So anyway, so she will be coming again, a full day, and it will be where we've had the full day presentations in the past at the church. So it'll be a good day with lots of good soup and salad. That's always my favorite part. So I just want to wish you all a great spring break. Some of you are lucky enough to be off next week, some the week after that. Here's hoping for nice warm weather or snow if you like snow, but I'm tired of snow. But if you're going to the beach, here's hoping no rain and sandy days and all that. Have a wonderful summer. Please rejuvenate. I know this year has been horrible in lots of ways that I don't think anybody thought they would be. We thought we were getting back to normal, and it was by far. So everyone needs to rejuvenate. If you want to do something, that's great. If you don't need to think about school, don't think about school. Whatever you need to do. I think it's so interesting that Denise and Daphne both use the word baby steps in their presentations. I've used baby steps forever. And so that's what I want you to take, baby steps back to good, maybe giant steps. Maybe we don't take baby steps. Maybe we take giant steps to get back to good mental health. So you do whatever it takes. If it's baby steps, you do what it takes, because I know you're all here. Good for you. Go do something for you. Okay. So thank you, Melissa. I appreciate you too. I'm hoping to have a great summer. So I'm going to the beach more often than I probably should. So yay, that's right. So thank you again. We will start meeting in September, whatever that, I think it's like the third Thursday in September. I don't have the date right in front of me. We will start with reading. I don't have anything planned yet, but just so you know, and I will be informing you whatever the results of the survey comes to pass, we'll decide if it's in person, hybrid, or just virtual. I don't know what it'll be yet, but we'll let you know. Okay. All right. So take care. Have a wonderful spring break. Denise and Daphne, thank you again. Night.